Everybody had confirmed. No, Ms. Quinn was tentative. And Mr. Frank said that he was going to come, but he had to. You will leave at 6.
Oh.
Hmm.
And I'm online. I'm on my way, so I'll be there in person shortly.
Was that him?
Yes. Sort of.
We heard you, Frank.
10-4, Frank.
Thanks.
Roger. It is 5:05. We started late due to chairman's charging us not getting here on time. But I'm hereby declaring this meeting open.
Roll call. Chairman Anker Jensen.
Here.
Vice Chairman Dr. Joe Hinojosa.
Present.
Treasurer Gerardo Gonzalez.
Here.
Secretary Liliana Elizondo.
Present.
Board Member Frank Orozco Jr.
Present.
Board Member Ana O'Quinn. Board Member Benjamin Peña.
Here.
For the record, Ms. O'Quinn is absent. Next item, public comment period. There was no comment registered, Chairman. Next item, consideration and action, if any, on the following items. Approval of the minutes of special workshop and regular board meeting. Regular, October 17, 2024. Acknowledgement regarding the payment of vendor services invoiced to the Greater Brownsville Incentive Corporation for the month of October 2024.
Can I have a motion to accept?
Motion to approve. I second.
Any discussion? So we approved the minutes and acknowledgement regarding, acknowledge the payments, right? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it,
Aye.
motion passes.
Next item, staff report. 1, business retention and expansion and workforce development effort. 2, business recruitment / events and sponsorships. 3, executive report. Business retention and expansion and workforce development efforts by Giovanna Rangel.
Good afternoon, board members. All right, so I'm going to go quickly with my update because I have a few updates. This past month, I did 7 business retention expansion visits. I also wanted to give you all an update on Careers in Coffee. As you all know, is very successful this past month. And we sent out a survey to find out how many applications, the organizations received, and as well if anyone was hired during the process as well. So far, we've only had about 15 companies really, complete this survey. So based off of that, we were able to gather this information. So 408 applications were received and 51 were hired based off of Careers in Coffee, right? Again, this is only about 15, 16 companies that replied, so I can only imagine how much more Careers in Coffee impacted. Yes, sir.
I have a technical question. Now, I was there and the line was going around twice the room for SpaceX. How many of these applications went to SpaceX and how many was accepted?
So SpaceX has not filled out the survey yet. I'm hoping they do, so we can get that information to you all.
That's a good return.
Yes.
Good work.
Thank you.
Do we know a range of the salaries that they received, or it's not in the scope of the questions?
It was not in the scope of the questions. We did include kind of to see what type of positions, right? Some of them replied, some others didn't. There was clerical, there was operators, I'm sorry. There was in marketing as well. So there's different types of really openings that they were able to hire from that.
Just, I think, I don't know if they're gonna provide it or not, but I think that would be good to present the numbers and the impact in the community with salaries. And so
Yeah.
when you're making, so when we're presenting this type of projects, I think it's good to have that info, if possible. I know
Of
that
course.
some of the participants will not provide that information.
We will most certainly put that as an option. Yes.
Is that something that we intend to put into the news, that we had this and we had all these people applying and stuff?
I'm so sorry, I cannot hear you, Chairman.
Is that something we intend to put in the newspaper or report on so that the public also knows that we're actually doing this?
Yes.
I'll answer that. So next week, we're looking to start a rotation for press releases, and that'll be the first one that we'll be issuing.
Okay, sounds good.
Yes. Okay, we also attended the youth panel discussion hosted by BCIC and Teach for America. This was a great opportunity to collaborate for students in high school as well as technical college and one college student who participated in this panel to really see how we can take actions and move forward to improve the educational outcomes of that. So it was a great event, and there's definitely going to be follow-up with Teach for America to see what we can continue to do for high school students and college students. We hosted a Swedish delegation and provided tours at Consulting Point as well as SATA USA. They were here for 2 days, so we were very glad to host them during that time. We attended as a team to the 10th Annual Business Leadership Conference hosted by Proyecto Juan Diego. I also attended the Tri-Agency Convener meeting. So this convener is created by Workforce Solutions Cameron, where they invited different entities to be a part of this. So they were awarded a grant to do the planning phase and to apply for this grant and kind of move forward. So I'm a part of that. And within that, I am a member of the manufacturing committee. So as a result of that, we'll be having an industry day to connect students with employers and expose them to those type of opportunities. We also met with RGB College, who's looking for options in Brownsville. We'll continue to work with them to see how we can assist. We also collaborated with CTE, BISD, ESSER Recycling, to create a recycling project for 3 different high schools. So we had Lopez, we had Rivera, and then the last high school is going to be Veterans, which will be happening next week. And pretty much it was just an educational project for them to learn how the recycling process is in a vehicle. So BISD donated these vehicles to ESSER Recycling, and they were able to literally see, how that worked. So it's very educational for the students. These students were in business, also manufacturing, and accounting. So they're all kind of different pathways, but they really loved it. And within that as well, we educated them as to what we do as an organization, what we do for the city, and what economic development is, because a lot of them did not know. Right? So that was very, very exciting to be a part of. We also hosted a project, one of our clients, which is Project Textiles, who will potentially be partnering up with a local manufacturing company and create, in the first phase, about 20 to 25 jobs. And their 3 to 5 year plan is to branch out and expand here in the city.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Is there a reason we're still looking at the first page on the screen?
Yes, we're
Okay.
just giving out the report,
Okay.
testing it out how this goes. Yes, sir. TSTC has created a curriculum for Bechtel. The curriculum is based off of level 1 rigging. And so this is a collaboration with Workforce Solutions Cameron, GBIC, and of course TSTC. And so we have 3 students from Bronzo who are interested in doing level 2. So we are going to be sponsoring them so that they're able to go through this training. The awesome part about this is that they are going to have a job at Bechtel right when they're done with their certification. So we are proud to sponsor these 3 students from Brownsville. As a team, we also attended the HEB Feast of Sharing. So I don't know if you guys saw that on social media. That was very, very rewarding to be a part of and serve these plates for the community. I believe over 5,000 plates were served. It was very successful. And lastly, I attended the binational meeting hosted by the city of Brownsville, where we engaged with the governor of Tamaulipas, as well as the presidente municipal for Matamoros, to discuss how we can improve and work together from both sides. And just as a reminder, I sent out the invitation for our annual appreciation mixer for our partners, so we hope to see you all there. I'd ask that you guys please RSVP, if possible. Any questions? Thank you so much.
You were going to say something? Okay, why not?
Giovanna, can you
Thank
send,
you, Luana.
can you send the calendar invite on that appreciation?
course. We will send the calendar invite.
Thank you, Ms. Rangel. Next item, business recruitment by Jerry Briones.
Good afternoon, everybody. So it was a slow month at the state level. We only received 4 RFIs this month. All 4 are basically renewable, renewable energy projects. Aside from requiring a lot of acreage.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm all right. Just, I think my
Maybe
tie
a shot of whiskey would do you better.
probably, my tie was a little tight, I guess. And then, so all of them were recycling, solar panels, energy storage devices. They wanted to sell back power, and I think one actually required that we already had hydrogen and electricity. Yeah, so that was definitely an out. So we did not respond to any of those 4 projects. I also, I'm sorry, I was feeling a little under the weather this afternoon, but I did have a trip to Canada this month, October 21st through the 23rd, actually last month. I met with 7 companies that Research FDI set up meetings for. They all kind of varied from advanced building materials, which was actually very interesting. They add certain chemicals and do a chemical process that hardens concrete for the housing and building industry. So they're looking at already having a small presence in Houston, basically for the port. So they were kind of excited that we were there because they didn't know we had a port. So that was a good thing. Out of the 7, 3 have actually already have a small presence in Houston because they know Texas is a hot spot for construction, energy. And when we approached them, the port was of interest. But the other thing of interest was that they were close proximity to Mexico, which could open another market for them as well. We also met with a hydrovac manufacturer, which is these big, huge trucks that are used to suck water out of excavation and construction places. They were actually looking at Monterrey and have contacted several people in Monterrey, but they didn't know again that Brownsville was next to Matamoros. So that was also a good sign for us there. So I did return and send out some additional information. One of them actually wants to set up a meeting with the port, and another one wants to set up a meeting with BPUB because they use brine that comes out of the desal process to use in their concrete chemical process as well. So overall, I think we had a real good interest from at least 3 of the 7. We will definitely be going back to them. Giovanna actually sent out invites to our Christmas mixer to several of those companies because they were interested in doing a tour of Brownsville. So I said this would be a good opportunity for them. Aside from that, last night we did get approval on a resolution to sell Lot 8 from the city. So that went very well. On my events, Thank you to Mr. Orozco for sending me that, an invite to attend the CEO conference with Rioplex in McAllen on last Thursday. Mr. Gonzalez was there, and I think the biggest takeaway from that meeting, and in all honesty, it wasn't a meeting for EDOs. I kind of sneaked in through the back door there a little bit. It was a meeting for CEOs, for bankers of upper level. And the main idea is that they feel that the Valley is fractured and that the Valley EDOs do not work hand in hand, which in all honesty, that's a reality. I'm not going to say that we are, best friends or anything, but we feel that Brownsville pays us. So our responsibility and what we look forward to is working for the city of Brownsville. So until something else comes about, we will keep it at arm's length. And I apologize for my voice. And any other questions?
Jerry, fantastic. You did a great effort speaking. But
Thank you.
This project with people making fuel out of bare air. I know I signed the
Project Oxidize?
change of the ownership the other day.
Yes, sir.
That is going to be very, very interesting. I'm sure that the board wants to be kept abreast of everything that happens out there. It's
Gilbert will
very
be talking
interesting.
about that here in a few seconds.
My other question, the question I had, I thought normally we had little slides or something, talking points so we could read along, jog our memories. I was curious.
We're trying to do
I
something
agree.
different to
I agree
maybe
with him
reduce
because
the
then
time.
I'm thinking,
spent.
oh, wow, what was that?
Yeah.
We're
I
trying to
mean,
reduce time spent
Yeah.
in the meeting, right, for everybody's.
No, that would be really good if you could bring that back, please.
Just go through them quickly.
Uh,
But I do appreciate the making it more efficient. I think
Oh,
that's-
yeah, absolutely,
we're-
absolutely,
Abs-
but
Well, I
also
know.
make it so.
We figure
that
we
the
get
old
some
people, you
feedback,
cannot
right?
Follow it.
Good or
I
bad,
think it
we
could be a
did something
couple of
like
slides and just with the meat of what you guys want to transmit to us that we need to focus on, and the other comments could be just presenting.
Yeah.
Just the basic stuff,
Way it's in
and the
between
good pictures you
Lowering
always
the
say.
time but being able to understand more what you're trying to transmit.
No problem. Thank you.
Jerry.
Yes, sir.
On the,
That would be to the left, right? It's not.
the CEO thing that you all went to in McAllen, I kind of anticipated that was going to be the mentality, which is fine. But one thing I do want us to have an answer to is there's a preconception that when you talk about Hidalgo, you talk about Hidalgo. You talk about McAllen, Edinburgh, Bar San Juan, and they're almost kind of considered the same in the eyes.
Right.
And anything we could do, I know that it doesn't make sense for us to go and reach out to Harlingen and maybe partner with Harlingen all the time. But the one thing I think that I would at least like to start hearing is that Brownsville, GBIC, BCIC, and the port are a unified, or in some way or form, a unified kind of process, and that they all kind of could work together in terms of doing that. And I know that we refer to the port all the time, and I completely understand. I think the more the concept is when we go out to, when the port goes out to their conferences, they go to Hanover or wherever they go, that if we could tag along or if we could work something where we can both be in the same page about going to those things and presenting together and stuff like that. But that's really, I completely kind of, when I found out what it was about afterwards and I kind of heard how it went, I kind of figured that idea of working together as one big group may not exactly jive.
Right.
But in terms of the port, our local stuff, we need to have that kind of perception, and we need to start building and coming up with a plan to how we can present as a unified front in terms of it's Brownsville approaching you with all its multifaceted types of departments.
Yes, sir. That's something that we can definitely do.
Jerry, if I can elaborate a little bit more, Frank, we are having a partnership with BCIC. How is that going and who's the point person in GBIC?
So I spoke to Nathan earlier this week and, excuse me, and they are working on the MOU for us to look at, and I'll send it over to Mr. Caso once I receive it, but I'll show it to everyone here first, right? So that we can make our comments and any red lines. They said they should have it ready by the end of next week. And that way we can start looking. We will have 3 members from our board, and I know Mr. Salinas has asked to be one of the 3 on their advisory committee. And I will be part of the working committee that will be bringing the projects to the advisory board. So I think Mr. Peña had said that he wanted to be also on the board. I don't know if anyone else would like to.
We have, I need, it'll be nice to get somebody to tell me who would like to be on that so I can appoint them to that committee.
Depends on how many meetings is it?
We haven't decided yet. I think initially they had said once a month, but I think might be quarterly, or I don't know. Once they come back with the MOU, we can take a look at it and then decide as to how
If you
often.
want to include me there, but I just want to see, if it's too many meetings, then I probably won't be able to make it.
All right.
With the travel.
I think, okay. I think initially we should have at least once a month just to see, right, to stay on top of it. But yeah, we can bring that back.
If you want, let's start, and if I see that I can commit, then I'll probably send the baton to somebody else.
Okay. Yes, sir.
All right, Ben and Geraldo would like to be on that committee, and then we got Gilbert, be part of the 3, right? 1 staff and 2 board members.
Okay. Yes, sir. I got that now.
Okay, if you can put that in the notes. Thank you.
Anything else, sir?
Apart from thank you, no.
Oh.
Thank you, Mr. Briones. Next, executive report by Gilberto Salinas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I just kind of jotted down real quick on the, Mr. Orozco, you mentioned partnerships with the port. Back in my day, when we did economic development here, we used to actually have trade missions. We would put together trade missions. The Port of Brownsville was key with that. Gerardo, I think you were involved when we were bringing Matamoros to the table to also be part of those trade missions. And we executed those to perfection. And it showed very, very well as far as the region. And we had, great success. So we're looking to reintroduce those here in the coming year. So thank you for bringing that up. The CEO event, that's the other one. The main reason, like Jerry mentioned, it wasn't open to EDOs. At least I don't think it was. But main reason it caught our attention is because they had a SpaceX logo on it. A rocket launching, and we're like, wait a minute, that's our project, right? So let's go see what this is about. So that's how we ended up there. And then on the slides, we will most definitely introduce those. That was my idea. I told the team, like, you know what, let's not do slides. Let's just go through the reports, be a little bit more efficient. Contrary to what they were saying, they said, no, we need to have something. I'm like, trust me, guys. There goes that, right? So. Okay, so my report here quickly is, so I continue meeting. I've been meeting with some of our community and business leaders, and that's just part of my immersion and listening tour, just going around town, really just soaking everything in. And it's interesting, I've met more than 200 individuals, and I still have a long list of people to get to. But it's interesting how the definition of economic development and their vision of economic development changes from person to person. So that just means there's work to do on our end as far as economic development awareness, which is fine. That's just something that we have to do on our end. Yeah, on the prospect side, Giovanna mentioned we had the Swedish group come in here last month or 2 weeks ago. Our chairman met with them, so that was very positive, very proactive. And again, they're coming in to look at opportunities on the manufacturing side and partnerships with the university as well as some of our colleges. We will be hosting a group, a couple of investors from the Monterrey area here in a couple of weeks. So we're looking forward to that one. Again, somebody that's done work in Central Texas and now is looking at our area. Eliezer Rodriguez from our team, he's traveling with the mayor. He's in Monterrey right now. He actually spoke at a national conference And he already had some prospects lined up. So he asked somebody from our organization to join them. So they're out there working it. And then we also are supporting a local manufacturer. It's a company that manufactures or works on electric turbines. They're hosting a German prospect here in the next few weeks. So they've asked for us to come in and help them, support them. They're trying to get them as a client. And if they do, then they would be expanding job-wise by almost double. And then their footprint as well as far as their actual facilities. So again, that's just part of what we do. We're also helping our local manufacturers with expansion. Project Mustang, we're having some of their high-level executives coming into town next week. And we're looking forward to that one because, again, this is a project that falls in that category of a project of significance as far as just very exciting to see how we could change our North Brownsville industrial corridor. And it's what I love about it, it's a very powerful brand. And coming back to the whole CEO event and having SpaceX on there, this company will yet again set us apart from everybody else. Project Razor, Eliasad and myself, we were in St. Louis last week, meeting with the company out of the Midwest. We're at their headquarters, met with the president of the company, their vice president, and should they choose Brownsville, they'll be building a state-of-the-art facility, a great investment, brand new construction, and they'd be looking at some CNC machinery, which is great, especially for our human capital pipeline and building those relationships with the CTE program. So they've already asked about that, looking at apprenticeship programs. From what I can gather, touring the facility, they're going to be, if they choose Brownsville, great community partners and great corporate citizens. And again, brand new construction, very good paying jobs. So again, we're just kind of waiting to see where they're going to be heading here in the next 2 to 3 months as far as their decision-making process. And then Jerry mentioned Project Oxidizing. They're also going to be in town here in the next couple of weeks. Briefly touched on that project here at the City Commission last night as part of the land swap. And again, should they be choosing Brownsville, then it would be one of those projects again, one of those projects of significance. Very good paying jobs. It would be adding to our supply chain. And what I love about this project, it would really, really extend our tax base. So that'll help our city coffers. And it'll just help that grow that industrial corridor on the north side. And with this project, depending on what we do today, the ball's actually on our court. This project has a huge potential in the next 3 to 5 years as far as doubling operations. It's just all a matter of what's going to happen today in the next few months with the project. Okay, so another activity, wrapping up here, we are going to be visiting the Office of the Governor. We're going to have an opportunity to give a community update as far as economic development projects that we have, some of the gaps that we have in the community where they can help us. So they usually give us about an hour to come in and just talk about everything that's happening in the Brownsville area. A great opportunity to start building those relationships with them, and especially for the team that has not met them yet. And talking about RFIs, I mean, that's where those RFIs are issued. So it's great to go to the source. And then the industry mixer, Joanna mentioned that's set for December 13th. And hopeful to have a good group of industrial leaders, but also maybe a couple of prospects as well. So if you're going to be there, we're probably going to ask you to work as well. So just get ready for that one. So in closing, great momentum, definitely moving in the right direction. And before I forget, we have officially hired a marketing person. So she will be starting on Monday. Hence, thank you for the reminder about press releases. That is the first task, because we've already got 2, 3 press releases we need to be issuing here in the next couple of weeks. So we're excited about that. And yeah, I think we're gelling pretty good, as far as the culture that we have there in the office. We're being here for 4 weeks already. Happy to answer any questions before I go into my next.
I had just one question.
Yes, sir.
You said if we go to that social on December 13th, you're going to
Correct,
ask
yes.
us, you're going to ask us for what now?
Oh, we might have a couple of prospects there, which means you would help us sell Brownsville.
You're gonna help us
Prospective
what
companies.
now? I'm sorry, my hearing aid's not working well.
To talk to them to sell Brownsville to them.
Oh, to sell Brownsville?
Yes.
Okay, I was wondering what you're trying to, thought you wanted to sell me or something.
No, no, not at all, no.
Yeah. Didn't get that much.
There's times when we will lean on board members to help us move a project along or sometimes close a deal.
Okay.
I think you can count on every board member here to carry about 100 cards and go see everybody and sell Brownsville.
Oh, yeah.
Great to hear.
Questions, guys?
Thank you, Mr. Salinas. Next
Thank you,
item.
You got more?
Yeah, the next item, yes.
Next item, discussion, consideration, and approval of the Greater Brownsville Incentive Corporation one-year roadmap presented by Gilberto Salinas.
Okay.
We'll actually get to the slides. Now I feel selfish. How do I, yeah, no pictures, just text. But it looks nice. So I mentioned at the last board meeting that we would be coming back with a one-year roadmap. And this is just really to give us some direction for the first year. And this will be kind of like a placeholder for the strategic plan. So 6 months in, we'd be looking at starting the process of a strategic plan, which that in itself takes about 6 months. And then by the time we finish with this one, we're ready to start working off of the strategic plan that this board would have participated in and created. So for this one here, we've got 7 lines of engagement: business retention expansion, marketing communication, our human capital pipeline, which is workforce, industrial development, BRE, and then also the ROI of the organization and all the different projects that we're working. And then it has, as I had mentioned last time, just the organizational housekeeping, just coming in and making sure that everything is operating the way it should be. And these are in no particular order. So on the BRE side, pretty standard, just making sure that we continue to have relations with the local industry, to be in alignment with our target sectors. Something that we're missing is asset mapping. And that's something that site selectors are usually looking for. And it's basically an inventory of all different assets that you have in the community, in the region, as we mentioned, which is the Port of Brownsville and Matamoros as well. And then events as far as BRE, and then our industry roundtables. So as far as deliverables for a community our size, local company visits, we should be somewhere between 50 to 60 in a year. Expansion of local jobs, this one's real hard to gauge, but if we're able to help local companies and combined grow by at least 200 jobs, then we're more or less where we should be. And then we're looking at doing 4 roundtables / events where we pull in all of our different industrial leaders. And the one next month is our end of the year mixer. And then the other 3 are just regular roundtables where we just come in and we share information as far as the state of economic development, and vice versa, we hear from them. And then asset mapping is that one document, and that's just one. On the marketing and communication side, pretty standard, developing a marketing, communications, campaign, public relations program. And then the other one is editorial placements. So that's something that we would be introducing new, which is finding a way. Usually we'll work with consultants that'll get us interviews with the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Forbes magazine, different trade publications, also in Latin America, to start getting proactive. Yes, sir?
Before you go on, what is EOU?
End of year, EOY?
End of year.
End of
Right,
year.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. No, it's a good question. So editorial placement. So then we're looking at, as far as deliverables on the website, that's one way to track what we're doing. It can't determine that until the marketing person comes in and she's able to tell us more or less where we should be at. Same thing with social media. On the earned media side, I can say that we're at about 24, and these are national articles that we can get out, basically 2 a month. Then we're again, where we should be. Press releases, we're looking at minimum at least 1 a month. And then TV interviews, podcasts, 1 a month as well. And we're looking at these to be at the national level as well.
Gilbert,
Yes, sir.
before you move on from marketing, were you the one that mentioned that there was a site selector publication out there, a national site selector publication?
Mhm.
There is.
There's a handful of them actually.
Okay.
That, whose target audience are site selectors.
Okay. So would it make sense to advertise in something like that, or
Good
From-
question.
marketing standpoint?
Good question. So I typically don't utilize advertising because people are pretty savvy and they'll see through an advertisement. They know who the advertisement's coming from. So what I do is usually do the earned media. Let me start getting articles that talk about what we're doing here. For instance, Area Development Magazine, which is targeted towards site selectors. I've been very successful in getting articles in their profiles about Brownsville. The reason you want articles is because corporate executives, site selectors, so on and so forth, that's where they get their information from as far as site selection processes. And there's studies out there that show that corporate executives, they still read the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times. And if you're in there, then chances are they're going to read articles about you. And I've been at places meeting with some pretty high profile businesses where we've had articles printed about the community. And then when I walk into their boardrooms, doing a pitch, selling Brownsville, they'll come back and say, even before we get started, they'll be like, you know what? I just read something in such and such publication about Brownsville. I found it very interesting. When you can walk into a boardroom and half of your pitch is already there, I mean, the rest is just a lot easier. And talk about credibility that, you bring as well. So there's a little bit of science that goes into it. So that's why usually I'll use those funds from advertising and pull them into editorial placement. That's what that program's called. Kind of spoken a big circle. Does that make sense? Yes, sir?
I don't know if any of you, to first what you said, Gilbert, about articles. There was an article about Brownsville. The president, one of the first things he would do was to lift the restrictions on the LNG plant. And he mentioned Brownsville specifically in the article. I can find.
I did not see that, but
send it to you.
You can't buy that kind of press. You can't, an advertisement can't do that. Yes, sir.
I don't see, but I would imagine that you have on finishing the webpage or updating the webpage. Is it one of the targets that we're going to do in this one?
Yes. And so it's already,
I know it was halfway or more than.
it's more than halfway. So we're just waiting for that person to come in and start, that's one of the first things that she'll be working on.
Okay.
And so we're now website experts. It's been 20 years since I've worked on one. So definitely I'm not the one to be, messing with it.
And speaking of websites, the domain name Brownsville Economic Development, the domain name,
Okay.
I mean, it'd be very nice to have that.
I'd have to check to see where it's at, if it's available for purchase.
BEDC.
BEDC? Yeah, I'd have to see where it's at. But those are the SEO strategies, finding ways to try to get our name to move up in those searches.
Or if we can do a combined stuff where both names could come up and
Yeah.
something, come to an agreement where both of us are trying to do the same thing, but
Yeah.
have that.
Mhm. So there's ways to work with it, not a problem. And also the other one, I totally forgot, I skipped it, was looking at not a change of the name of the organization, but looking at a brand that is reflective of economic development, because that'll help us. I've spoke to a couple of site selectors and they're like, yeah, when we do the search, one, your name doesn't pop up, and two, when it does pop up, it's confusing. It doesn't sound like economic development. So we'll be looking at that as well. On the human capital side, which is workforce, again, the partnerships, job fairs, events, a lot of stuff we're already doing. Texas Workforce Commission, building those relationships in Austin, because that's where those workforce dollars come from. And so again, on the job events, having at least, a couple of job fairs a year to support the hiring process. Texas Workforce visits with them, as well as CTE engagements with school districts, doing those on a quarterly basis. And then two things that would be new. One is the labor shed analysis is something that we're lacking. And again, that's what prospects are looking for. So we'll start working on that one. And then the other one is a talent attraction program. I've never seen, in Brownsville, it's the first time that I see that there's actually businesses that have help wanted. Have not seen that here since I can remember. Actually, we were just talking about that not too long ago. And we've, several manufacturers have already said, we're not struggling to hire people, not at all, but it'd be good to start to see what else is out there, which means, are people moving into the community? So that's where the talent attraction program comes into play. Now starting to promote Brownsville also for a place to come in, live, and work, in addition to investment. So we're already looking at that as well, because we're listening to our manufacturers. The industrial development, that the park, that one's pretty simple. We just need to break ground. I mean, that's a deliverable right there. Break ground and promote it. Stick to the timeline, the budget, and then start looking at bringing in site selectors, FAM tours, because we actually have something to promote this time around. On the corporate recruitment side, we're pretty aggressive in that regard. So we're looking at the current projects and then really start focusing on lead generation, really building an internal lead generation engine to have the pipeline full of leads. Again, it's aligned with our target sectors, Matamoros, Port of Brownsville, as you all mentioned. Those are going to be partners for us moving forward. So on the qualified leads, we're somewhere between 80 to 100. That's pretty standard for our community. And just to kind of explain how that works, to get to 80 to 100 qualified leads, we typically have to go through a list of 2,000 companies to get to those qualified leads. And then once you get there, then you whittle those down to about 40 or 50 that are considered your best bet. And out of those, you'll probably get 10 site visits out of it, 10 companies that will have site visits. And then out of those 10, you'll probably get 1, maybe 2 deals out of it. But it's a numbers game. You really have to put it out there. So that's what we're going to be working on, building that internal lead generation machine, attending the trade missions, 10 to 12. A number of prospects. If we're somewhere between 2024, then again, that's where we should be at. Deals closed, so we can at minimum close 1 deal per year, as long as it's something that creates primary jobs, expands our tax base and everything. It's just on any given year. Sometimes you can have a few, sometimes you'll have 1. So for now, we'll say 1. And then jobs and capital investment, very hard to determine that right now until we've been here for a full year. Then we can figure out, okay, this is where we need to be at. And then the last one, no, 2 more to go. Return on investment and incentives. So just looking at the internal processes as far as how incentives are handled, due diligence, so on and so forth. Looking at ways to get creative with our financing, which is finding ways to import dollars into our community, match dollars. And then everything that we do, every project that we work, whether we incentivize them or not, we need to make sure there's an economic impact study associated with it. That way, when we announce a project or we start talking about the project, we actually have numbers to support those deals. And then EOY, end of year, is have an annual report. We need to have that annual report that shows everything that we did for the year. Our financials will be in there and what have you. So again, yeah, just looking at those studies. It's a combination of economic impact studies and as well as some white papers, just kind of picking up on some industry trends. And then the dollars, importing dollars, not sure how much we can get, but again, just once we get through this year, we'll have a better idea. And again, annual report, that would be 1 for the year. And then wrapping up here is making sure that the board is comfortable with this 1-year roadmap. And then just revisit our policies, our internal controls, make sure everything is working the way it should be. And then start working on a board retreat. That'll lead to a strategic plan. And then one thing that I would be asking is at the end of this year, the end of this process is for the board, in addition to doing an evaluation of myself, also do an evaluation on the organization as far as, just our performance based off of this plan here. Okay, that's.
On the evaluation, you talk about at the end of like December this coming year or a year from today? Because it's hard to give you an evaluation.
Yeah.
At least holistically in 1 month.
I started 4 weeks ago, so I'd say a year from then,
Well,
which almost coincides with the end of the fiscal year.
After one.
Yeah.
So
At the end of the
yeah, after 1 year.
if I
Yeah.
feel I need more time, I'll come back and say, give me till the end of December.
Make it a 1.5 year roadmap.
Yeah.
Gilbert, one thing I noticed, or I wanted to point out was, I'm sure you've probably been made aware, but the city commission had an impact on BCIC recently because they changed their required funding or how they spend their money. They basically, for a long time, BCIC was doing small business development. They're putting a lot of money in there. City commission came, said, no, you got to do half to quality of life projects, quite half to economic development. And I think what that just naturally would result in is some type of void in small business development type stuff.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that you need to make it a part of the plan at the end of the day, but what I would think should be done is to do some type of study or have a conversation with BCIC to see if that void, how big that void is now and whether we can play any role in it. If it turns out, hey, we're not the best ones to do it, BCIC is better equipped because they got their building or whatever, then that's the answer. But at some point, I think it'd be good to know, is that something we should step into? If not, why? And just so we have an idea.
Yeah.
That's a, because the way I've always seen it, and I've told various of your predecessors, is that one deal landed a year, that's great if it's 16 jobs. But if we get 4 small businesses with 4 jobs each, well, it may not be the salaries we want, but it's something.
Yeah.
So if there's any ability for us to step into that arena, I'm not saying we have to, but it'd be worthwhile to evaluate whether we should. And at the end of the day, see how that plays in.
And thank you for bringing that up. It doesn't mean that we can't do it. Type A entities typically are driven by primary jobs, which is why usually it's manufacturing industry. Call centers fall in that. Health and medical to a certain extent also fall in that. And a type B is kind of like a type A on steroids. They can almost use it for anything as long as it falls under the city's definition of economic development. However, it doesn't mean that we can't create programs to help support small businesses that, that would be helping, the primary job generators. Where we stand right now, our plates are full. But I think, definitely, getting in touch with BCIC, see where they're at. And if that void is there, then how can we address that? We can partner with them, or if it's something that we take on, don't have a problem with that. We just kind of have to shuffle stuff around. And I think that's where the strategic plan comes into play too.
Yeah, and I think what the city commission needs to know, at least from that end, is recognizing that the decision that they made, did it create a void?
Yeah.
And if we're not equipped to be able to help them with that, they need to understand, well, that decision you made left a void and there is nobody to fill it.
Exactly.
Because we don't have the people or we don't have the capacity to do it. BCIC is now constrained by ordinance.
Yeah.
So you all need to, the commission at one point needs to reckon with whatever that decision made.
Yeah.
So if they could at least know that we've looked at it, and if we can't do it, then we can't do it. We're not gonna stretch ourselves thin to fill something that, isn't our responsibility or whatever.
And, something I've usually practiced wherever I've been is if a small business person walks in through the door, we don't turn that person away. You know, we'll take the time because it's a small business owner. It's somebody from our community. And we'll find the time to work with the person. We just don't promote it, right? But if somebody walks in, yeah, and if we can't help them, then we'll point them in the right direction. And then we'll follow up later on to see where they're at. But we just don't promote that. I know during COVID that, you know, we got a lot of those walk-ins. You know, I wasn't here. But we were not turning people away. I mean, they were, you know, it was tough. It was tough for them.
I think you're right with respect to the delineation of who's doing what
Mhm.
and how, right? And our strategic plan should be able to outline, hey, these are our parameters, this is our work area where we work, and identify what they're covering as well, so that in cases there's overlap, then we can, okay, you got that, we got this.
Yeah.
It's, economic development is such a broad, from incubation to recruiting, you know, businesses from the outside. It's very broad, and it can get a little bit, we can get a little bit lost in the forest there. So I think a strategic plan would be very beneficial, and identify those parameters maybe in the board retreat that we have.
And it helps us as, you know, as the staff and the team as well. And again, this plan is just to get us to that point.
We need a motion. We need a
So,
motion.
so I'm requesting for approval.
Approval.
Approval of the plan.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it, the plan is approved. Thank you, Gilbert.
Thank you.
Next item, discussion, consideration, and acknowledgement of the Greater Brownsville Incentive Corporation financials and quarterly investment presented by Salvador Villalpando.
Good afternoon, board members. Today we'll be going over the financials for GBIC through the first month of the fiscal year. Total assets through October are at 40.6 million, with 518,000 in cash, 25.7 million in investments, 624,000 in receivables. That's the sales tax for September. And then we have 13.8 million invested in capital assets. Liabilities are at 105,000, and that translates to a total net position of 40.5 million as of October. The net position consists of 13.8 million in assets, 24.5 million in undesignated fund balance, and lastly, 2.2 million in designated fund balance restricted through contractual commitments. Next slide here has a budget to actuals comparison for the first month of the fiscal year. Not much activity since it's the first month, but we do have some activity nonetheless. Interest earned for the first month is 105,000. No sales tax, we won't know that until next month, but it's projected to be at about 500,000 compared to October for the last two fiscal years. Expenses, we have 221,000, 88,000 in operating, 133,000 in initiatives. And we have a total change in net position of negative 116,000 as of right now. But again, that's expected to change once we reflect the sales tax for the first month of the fiscal year. On this slide here, we have a sales tax comparison between last fiscal year and the previous. So fiscal year 2023 and 2024. For September, we had collections of 624,000, which was a 3% increase compared to the previous fiscal year. Overall, we had a 4.2% increase compared to the previous fiscal year, which amounts to about 7.6 million in sales tax collected for the full fiscal year, which is pretty good, pretty great. Slide, please. And then lastly, we have on the next slide a visual of the sales tax history for the last 5 fiscal years. And then in green, we see the budgeted sales tax for fiscal year 2025. So as we can see in fiscal year 2020, we collected 5.18 million in sales tax. And then we jump over to fiscal year 2024, it increased to 7.6 million. That translates to about an 8% increase per fiscal year. And then lastly, we have the budgeted amount of 7.66 million for fiscal year 2025, which is pretty conservative. We should be able to hit that easily. That's it. Any questions?
Sal, I've always wondered, what was our total assets, the value of this organization in January 1 this year? And what is it now? Because I seem always to see that 40 million number and it never seemed to move.
So the 40 million consists of our investment in capital assets, which will increase depending on assets that are added in a fiscal year. And it also takes into account depreciation. But the number that can change more frequently is our operating fund balance. So our operating fund balance is currently 26.7 million.
Yeah,
So-
but whatever we do is still gonna move our total assets. If we
Our
have
total
more
net
money in the
position-
bank, less money in the bank, our total assets is still gonna reflect on our total assets. And I still see $40 million every time we look at it.
So unless we have drastic expenditures, our revenue is pretty consistent month per month. It's the sales tax that we get on a monthly basis. Unless we have 10 million in expenses, then you'll see that the total net position will change to 30 point whatever million it is. So that's what moves the needle there, is either a large increase in revenues or large expenses for whatever the reason may be, which, for example, the industrial park, we budgeted 17 million for this fiscal year. That's probably that will drop our total net position by the end of the fiscal year. So it's just dependent on the activity on a month per month basis.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, we make money, we spend money, and we get
Yeah, but I mean,
income
to me,
from
that
our,
means that we spend all the money we get in, there's no change in our assets.
we're not spending all the money.
No, it's not changing because you have sales tax revenue, you've got interest income. If you look on page 3 of 7 of his report, you'll see that our change in net position is month by month is not significantly changing.
No.
So you're kind of, until you have a significant expenditure, you're not gonna see those big swings in your assets. Notice you're holding because
Okay,
we're making, our operational expenses are being covered by the sales tax as well as the.
I'll look at it and I'll define my question a little bit better. Thank you.
I need a motion.
I'll make a motion to acknowledge.
Second. Aye.
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 The ayes have it, the motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Excellent
Villapando.
report.
Next item,
Excellent report.
Okay, yeah, right.
next item, closed session pursuant to the Texas Government Code, section 551.071, 551.072, and 551.087. Project Industrial, Project Oxidizing, and Project Razor.
Motion.
You have a motion to go to executive?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, we are going to executive meeting.
It's like 4:30. I got a call. Sky, You talk to Frank Rose. Yeah, okay, it was me. Like, I heard you're foreclosing on this condo, blah, blah. I'm calling on behalf of you. Okay, he says, my name's Alonso Castillo. And I'm like, okay, I didn't know. I just come back to Brownsville. I didn't really have any history. So I'm like, hey, he's like, I want you to stop that foreclosure. You need to make sure it doesn't. Like, I'm sorry, Mr. Cantu, I've given plenty of times. He's like, are you serious right now? I am. I was like, no, I don't know who you are. I just get back. I'm telling you that the money's there. It's good. Okay. It is not. Okay. It's not. That's good.
Okay, we're all back. We are coming back into open session. Do I need a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. We are back in open session.
Next item, consideration and action, if any, including but not limited to the adoption of board resolutions related to the items discussed in executive session, Project Industrial, Project Oxidizing, and Project Razor.
If we can proceed with the motion to proceed as recommended in executive.
Can I have a motion to?
So motioned.
Second?
Can I have a second? Any discussion? No? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. The motion carries. Now,
I make a
This-
motion for adjournment.
this is the moment we've all been waiting for. Can I have a second? He made the motion.
Second.
Second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Surprisingly, the ayes have it. Motion passes. Thank you very much, everybody, and thank you for staying so long. Sorry, but we did it fairly quick today.
Mr. Chairman, just clarification on the executive order, executive item, agenda items. There was no action on anything.
No,
It was just informational, right?
yeah,
So
that's what he said.